back on the Fresh Oil Podcast, and I am here with none other than the maestro himself, Dr. Reginald Bowens. Say what's up to the people, Doc.
What's going on, y'all?
Listen, man, I am excited about being here with you and talking with you and getting the chance to share some of the things that God has blessed you with over the years and what He is doing for you in this new season. So we're excited about this, and we're going to jump into this first segment. The first segment that we talk about, what I do with all of my interviews is I do something called word for word. So I'm going to throw a word at you, and I want you to give me the very first thing that comes to mind when you hear that word.
Okay.
All right? So the first word I want to throw at you is family.
Oh, family. I didn't get choked up because I got emotional. So family. I just think about, obviously, my family, and I think about I don't want to sound cliche, but I think about the love that was always in my family. My parents, they really established, that, especially between my brother and I, we're the only two siblings, and us just having a genuine love for each other. And my parents just, providing different experiences for us to study whatever field we wanted to study. Of course, music is what they really pushed us to do. They're both musicians. But family, I grew up with both of my parents every week going to church, singing in the car on the way to church or on the way to the amusement park or wherever, Tell my brother to take soprano, my dad would tell me to take alto, and then my mom will fall in somewhere too. But, I think of family, I just think of the wonderful experiences I had growing up, and even still to this day, being able to be, I'm not as close to my family as physically because I live in D.C., so that part is unfortunate. I do wish sometimes I was closer, to be with my parents, as they get older, and to just be there for them in those ways that would be supportive physically versus, virtually.
All right, I understand that. So that was good. Second word I want to throw at you, man, is I think I'm going to go this way. Let's do this word. Cleveland.
When I think Cleveland, the theme song comes to mind. Cleveland rocks. I think there's some general things that you think of when you think of Cleveland. You think of the different successes of people who've come out of Cleveland. And although he's not from Cleveland, but the affiliation, obviously, LeBron James. One of the first thoughts I think of, when I think of Cleveland, I think of my family, that's where they're from. And I think of my home church, which is in Cleveland. I think of my childhood. I think of my upbringing. I think about all the experiences that shaped me before I left Cleveland in 2005 for the first time.
Awesome. So I'm going to throw this word out there. And again, just give me the first thing that comes to mind when you hear it. Relationship. Wow, that's a good one right there. So, there's a variety of relationships. There's professional relationship, there's romantic relationship, there's spiritual relationship, and I think they have some common denominators. Being genuine, being sincere, being balanced, and obviously there's a level of compromise too. Compromising your desires for the sake of the relationship, whether, again, if that's professional, spiritual, or romantic. Good. One more. No, I'm not going to say one more, but the next one.
No.
I got another one. Faith.
Faith. When I think of faith, I think that faith is, I wouldn't say faith has carried me through, because I believe the Most High has done it Himself, but say faith is the reason why I am who I am today. Faith is, obviously the scripture comes to mind, but the scripture comes to mind when it comes to faith, and hope comes to mind. I think it is because of my faith I'm a pretty relaxed person, I'd say. I don't worry too much about things. I mean, I have human interaction. I mean, human reactions, of course, but I don't typically worry just because of my faith and understanding that everything's going to work out. I don't control those things I don't control. So that's where I especially have to lean into my faith. There have been a number of things, even on this experience of graduating and going to school and working simultaneously and not knowing how things are going to shape out, not knowing the details, but knowing that all things do really work together for the good. And that has carried me through.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna end with this one, and I think it's gonna help me tie into some other things as well. And I want to say it like this, and it was so general because I don't want it to be general, but I want it to be more focused. So I'm going to say it like this: ACAPELLA.
ACAPELLA, a lot of things come to mind. Obviously, the Italian meaning of the word acapella, in the manner of the church. That's one interpretation of it. Obviously, unaccompanied singing. Think of vocals only. No pianos, no chordal instruments, no drums, but everything is done by voice. I think of the experiences I had in 2011 on the television show The Sing Off, which was an a cappella television competition show that was incredible in shaping some of my professional endeavors once I graduated from Howard University. I also think about one of those endeavors being my summer program, Acapella Camp, where everything is acapella and unaccompanied.
Nice. Well, listen, we're gonna get ready to take a quick break, but that was awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing. That was it for Word. We will be right back on the Fresh Oil Podcast with Dr. Reginald Bowens.
Hey everybody, what's good? This your man D.M.A. Right now you are tuned in with the best podcast in the land right now. Fresh Oil Podcast. Let's go.
Okay. And we are back on the Fresh Oil Podcast. I am here with none other than Dr. Reginald Bowens. Listen, Doc, I'm so excited about this, man. I am excited because of the journey. You're getting your doctorate. We're going to get more into that, but I want to first, let's go back. You mentioned a couple of things that I want to touch on, but I want to go back even further. What was your upbringing like? What was your childhood like? What was it like growing up in Cleveland, Ohio?
I think it was standard. I think it was general. My brother might differ, but yeah, I do think that my childhood was, just typical. My parents. I remember dropping my brother when I was about maybe 2 or 3 years old. He was a baby. I remember that. I remember us growing up in an area, probably one of the more dangerous areas of the city. I remember moving and growing up in an area near more of my cousins. I remember walking to elementary school. I remember catching the bus.
Wow, you used to walk into school?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Man,
it was.
That's how it was for me. We used to walk to school too. Me and my younger brother. That's crazy.
Just kindergarten. Because then when I got to first grade, I ended up transferring to an arts elementary school.
Nice.
And so I was catching the bus, from the east side to the west side of Cleveland. I remember talent shows from elementary school. I remember starting to play different instruments and singing in a choir that wasn't a church choir. Speaking of church, I remember growing up in church, seeing my parents.
So what is your home church you grew up in?
So the church I grew up in was Second Lakeview Baptist, was a missionary Baptist. I think it's just Baptist church. That's the very first church I was in. I remember being there until my dad plays piano, and once we moved to another, I think we went to my grandfather's church after that. And then we went to another church where my dad was minister of music. And it was during that time when I really started to pursue playing. I won't say pursue. I remember one Saturday my dad said, tomorrow you're going to play at your grandfather's church. And I said, what? I only know 5 songs. He said, well, that's the 5 songs you're going to play. You know, and so I was 11 years old. I remember that was the 3rd Saturday of November in 1998. And I started playing the very next day.
Wow.
And so I've been playing in church since then. And I remember my mom running me all over the city of Cleveland for different performances for school. Nice. I was in community orchestras and big bands. And then I had small bands with me and my friends. We would gig. She would take us there. And those are some of the highlights.
Nice. So growing up in Cleveland, and how was the music scene in Cleveland? What would you call the music scene in Cleveland?
There's so much great music that comes out of Cleveland. When I think Cleveland nowadays, I think funk. You know, it's just something about that Cleveland funk, that bass line. We call it the Cleveland, the hump. It's just a type of groove that I don't get from other places. Now there's a Cleveland hump, but there's an Ohio hump too. So, but the Ohio hump is good too, but ain't nothing like the Cleveland hump. But Cleveland is definitely has a rich musical legacy, and obviously the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is there too. There are several jazz festivals. Well, I guess the main one in Cleveland would be the Tri-C Jazz Fest, but then there's the festival in like Lakeland, and is that Lakeland? No, Lakeland, and then there's one in Akron.
Nice.
So there's just a lot of music. I've taught a lot of different students. A lot of them have R&B backgrounds, or they may have the church backgrounds, gospel music backgrounds, or backgrounds in singer-songwriting and contemporary music and rock. Cleveland's definitely a rock city as well. So it's a lot of different musical options in Cleveland.
Nice. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you has music, since you started playing for your grandfather's church when you were younger, you said 11 years old?
Yes.
So ever since then, is that what birthed this musical journey in you, that's sitting at that piano in the church, and listen, all eyes are now on you at 11 years old? Is that what really kind of birthed your love for music?
I think that was birthed through observation first. Just observing, this is what my parents were doing. My mom would sing in the choir. Sometimes she would direct choirs. My dad would teach all the parts in the choir. He would be the lead musician and working out things with the band. So I just was always around that. We would go to my grandparents' house. My grandmother would pull the keyboard out the closet, make sure it has batteries in it, and say, everybody gather around, let's sing such and such song. We would sing a bunch of, well, they were always gospel with my grandmother. We would sing all those songs. And so it's interesting that you say that, because this past Thanksgiving, a moment clicked for me that kind of got me emotional, because we were singing in a circle. I think this was the first Thanksgiving without my uncle. And everyone's going around, well, why are you thankful this Thanksgiving? And I became thankful to just, for the upbringing I had. Music was all around, and I didn't, really realize it to that moment. Family gatherings, we're singing, and to think like we're harmonizing in our family. And now this is what I do for a living. And I didn't plan on doing this. I actually started college as a math major. I imagined going into actuarial science, because they told me that's where the big bucks were. And they're probably right. but I couldn't imagine having a job or a career that I'm not passionate about, that I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because that was going to be my next question. Was music going to be, was that your first choice as a career? But
no.
Apparently you were a mathematician. I'm sitting in front of a brilliant man, mathematician.
That's old life. Old life.
Well, that's awesome, man. So, the next question I want to ask you, man, is, because I'm still want to talk about your life and your childhood. What was a turning point for you? Because we all have one. What was a turning point for you in your life when you said, you know what? yeah, this is what I want to do?
And music. It's a really tough one. I mean, I know that I loved music. I always did. It was a thing that I felt good at doing, and I didn't know this is what I would be doing forever. I have a lot of teachers who said, I always saw it in you. I knew you was going to be a teacher. I had no desire to teach anyone. And as a matter of fact, when I was presented with the different music major options in college, education was far from my mind. I wanted to be a producer in the studio, and I think that was pretty much what I wanted to do. Yeah. It's like, I want to record. I want to be in the studio and play gospel music. Okay. You know, I went to school for jazz, and I thought I'm just gonna do this jazz thing for this degree, and I'm going right back to gospel. It didn't pan out that way. I found a way to kind of marry the two and really focus on sacred jazz music and listen to artists like Jerry Allen and Cyrus Chestnut, Alton Merrill, Take Six. Take Six was one of my I would say probably one of my earliest exposures to sacred jazz. Although it was acapella, I didn't know it was sacred jazz. I just know it was cool sounding. These guys singing these crazy harmonies. Yeah. And I don't know when that light bulb clicked. I changed my major because they told me they gave me scholarship. Wow. So that's why I changed my major. It wasn't because, I just feel like music is the thing. But that was the path that I believe God put me on. And I graduated with this degree, so I was like, okay, well, makes sense to get a job in this. But it's so interesting. So many people graduate from school and go a completely different direction. And that's okay. I mean, because college is not just about one area. Right. It's about so many developmental things regarding, you're becoming an adult. Yeah. You're just learning life skills. Right. Going to college. Right. And being away from the parents and figuring out, how do I navigate? No one's there to wake me up in the morning. Who's gonna cook for me? Right. All those different skills you just kind of acquire. You have to figure out how to meet friends. How to pick friends. Right. Well, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. How to pick friends is listen, that's a good one. Yeah. And pick your distant family. Right. You have to figure out how to do that. And the only thing that you really have is the foundation that was put in you and God. You have to just kind of rely on those things and go with what you've been taught, what your conscience is saying is right. Right. You just have to go with that. Yeah. Listen, that was good. You definitely got to be careful with who you let in your circle. You got to be careful. So I want to ask this question because you talk about your love for gospel music and your upbringing was in the church. So I'm going to ask these two follow-up questions, and we'll go to a quick break. But I want to ask you, what does it mean to you when you hear the term true worship? Oh, well, worship is not a genre of music. A lot of people like to say, worship is a slow song. It's not. Worship could be the result of a slow song, but worship is about your posture towards God. It's about your heart. And so that's, when I think true worship, I think that's not something that's taught. Well, yes, the Bible is taught, but I think it's also something you experience. Yeah. I have experienced God. I've experienced what He can do. Yeah. I've experienced what He's done. I've experienced those moments where I didn't know how I was going to pay the rent, how I was going to pay the car note. I've experienced those moments, and yeah, sure, I could be worrying like any human, but I still had that one, like, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know why this is happening to me, but I do know that there's something greater on the other side, and I just have to stick it out and endure to the end. That's good. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the gospel genre. Yeah, a lot of stuff. I'm not going to say a lot of it because they might try to cancel me. But of course. But what I want to ask you, because we're talking about this genre and your love for it and your posture towards God and how you have experienced God through your experiences of worship with Him. A lot of people have said to me over the
a lot of the last few months that this industry, the industry of gospel, is changing. What do you think the future of this industry is going to be looking like?
I do believe it'll be something that I won't say that we haven't seen because there's nothing new under the sun, but I do believe it's just going to continue to evolve. Obviously, the center of gospel music is supposed to be the gospel,
right?
You know, the society we live in, that's not always the focus. It's you know, it's a business. You know, even some churches, it's like, while there is a business side of church, some people treat it as a business solely, and that's not what it's supposed to be about. I don't know. I mean, gospel music has evolved. It's gone through so many changes.
It has.
And when you think about musically, you know, the roots are, you know, you got the Negro spirituals combined with blues. That's how we got that initial sound. But then you think about all the people who were not saved and out in the world who come into the church, get saved, and especially musicians, they bring their musical style with them.
Right.
And it's, you know, it's integrated with what we do. And if we believe that, you know, God appreciates all different types of praise to him, then you can't be judgmental and say, oh, well, that, you know, that sounds a little too worldly. I don't know. People feel different about it sounding worldly. I think people abuse that term. I do believe there's a separation of sacred and secular. I believe in the different, you know, that's the difference. But
I'm glad you said that. Secular, because that was going to be my next question. Do you believe that the gospel music has become too secular?
I believe it's too. Yes is I think maybe the short answer I want to say.
Okay.
I think that the focus of gospel music is what's secular.
Okay. Elaborate.
So when we think about those two terms, sacred and secular, sacred is for God, secular is not. Secular doesn't have to mean a bad thing. Right. The ABC song is a secular song. It's not about worshiping God, right? So there are different purposes for secular. I think in the church we have been accustomed to, if it ain't for God, it's demonic. You can only serve one master. While that scripture is true, that ain't what it's talking about. I just don't believe that's what it's talking about. I believe there has to be a distinction between clean and unclean. Do believe that. But I think the industry is saturated with a bunch of people who don't love God, you know? And that's just the unfortunate truth. There are a lot of people who do, but it always feels like they're in a needle in a haystack.
Right.
You know, if I be completely honest, it does feel like that.
Because there's a lot of artists who have a very, what people would call secular sound.
Absolutely.
But even though their sound may be quote unquote secular, I like to lean towards the heart of people.
Right.
What is their heart like? And if through the music I can feel your heart, not your heart, but your heart for God, then I can connect. So I wanted to really touch on that, because a lot of times we as believers, we get caught up in the secular, that sounds too much like the world. But come on, everything's going to sound, because like you said, there's nothing new under the sun. So everything is repetitive, and there's going to be some things that's going to trickle in, because that's just the way that we process things. So I just wanted to touch base on that with you a little bit, because I knew there was going to be a good one, but I really wanted to make sure we talked about that just a little bit.
I think as long as the word stays the focus, I think gospel music will be just fine. Good. But when things become not about him, that's when we usually run into issues, and marketing it as gospel music just because we said God. Yeah. Because there's some stuff that I've seen recently. I don't sing some stuff. Some so-called gospel music. I won't sing it because it's not scripturally sound. You know, and I don't believe in calling something that it's not.
I feel you. Because there's some things going around, even in this industry, that are so contrary to what gospel music should stand for. So we have to be very careful. That's the easiest way I could put it. We just have to be very careful.
Absolutely.
The Bible talks about us guarding our ear gates,
Yes.
and our eye gates, and our hearts, and our. So I'm very careful about what I allow in nowadays. You know,
Absolutely.
so yeah, man. So that's good stuff. Listen, I don't want to stay too long on this subject, but this could go on for a minute. But I want to ask one more thing before we go into a break. Is when were you introduced to singing? Because you've been playing since you were 11. So when did you say, you know what? Because you said that you were a contestant on
The sing-off.
the sing-off, which was an acapella competition. Wasn't that on? Well, I think that was NBC.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's awesome.
Thank you, sir.
And I wish I had seen it. I can't say that I have, but I'm going to go find it just so that I can see it. But that's awesome. But what really made you turn that corner from being a musician to saying, you know what, I want to express myself through my voice?
So in undergrad, I did want to focus on playing more. I ended up singing anyways in undergrad, you know, pretty much all those years. I think once I got into that kind of 2-year gap from undergraduate to master's, a lot of people were inquiring with me, can you teach me how to sing? Can you teach me? And I just personally felt like I haven't been formally trained and I don't want to ruin anyone's voice. And so that was one of the purposes for me going back to school, is to learn how to teach people how to sing. And so my master's is in jazz voice. And then that's where I kind of started singing more. It's one of those weird things because I like to play, I like to sing, I like to play different instruments, but it seems like you kind of get into a space on one, and that's what people know you by, and then you kind of break into the others. Because I go in some spaces, they have no idea that I play piano.
Right.
Or other spaces, they don't know I sing.
Right.
Because I got in doing something
Something
different.
else.
Yeah.
People, they tend to box you into what they see you as. So you have to, when they see you do something else, wait, I didn't know you do that.
Yep.
So yeah, I understand that completely. I totally understand that. All right, man. Well, listen, that was good stuff, man. And we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to dive into some of your things that you've been working on recently, and what it is that we're going to be talking about as far as what you got coming up in the near future. Cool. So listen, hold that thought, guys. We'll be right back on the Fresh Oil Podcast.
I'm available to you. My will I give to you. I'll do what you say, do. Use me, Lord, to show someone the way and enable me to say, my storage is can hear the cries of sinners, but cannot wipe away their tears. You gave me my voice to speak your word, to sing all your praises to those who never heard. But with my eyes I see I need for more availability. I've seen hearts that have been broken, so many people to be free. Oh Lord, I'm available to you. Oh, my will I give to you. I'll do what you say. Do use me, Lord, to show someone the way and enable me to say, oh, my storage is empty. My storage is empty. My storage is empty, Lord. If you can use anyone, you can use me. My storage is empty, and I am available to you.
And we're back on the Fresh Oil Podcast. I'm here with none other than the maestro himself, Dr. Reginald Bowens. I really want to dive in a little more about your experience. Tell me a little bit more about your experience on Sing Off on NBC. Just a little bit, if you wouldn't mind sharing just a little bit of your experience. What was that like?
It was great. It was great. I learned a lot. I met a ton of people, and it was right after I had graduated from undergrad. So at that point in my life, I had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew I was going to have a degree and be out here working somewhere. I feel like closer to the end of that semester, we were sought about auditioning for the show. And so we did, and once we got on the show, it was like, cool. I didn't know it was going to be such a large platform. I just didn't think about it. We got there. Being on TV wasn't a new experience, but being on TV like that was.
Okay.
And being in the competition, I've never been the biggest fan of competitions for a lot of reasons, but I was excited to do this. It was something new, not acapella in general, but just kind of the acapella pop genre.
Gotcha.
That was something that wasn't as familiar besides like Boys to Men. And so it was really cool to be out in California. I had been to Cali before, but that was the first time I got to be there for an extended period. I think we recorded for about 2 months for the first round, and then everything aired for a few months, and then we went back for the finale and the winter special. And so it was just incredible. It was exhausting, but it was incredible.
So where did you end up in the show? How did the show end for you?
So we placed third runners up out of 16 groups from across the globe.
So it was you along with others?
Yeah, so it was with the group It was the group from Howard University, Afro Blue, which is Howard's premier vocal jazz ensemble.
Nice.
So there were 10 of us in that group.
Nice. Oh man, that's exciting. I'm gonna go see if I can find some reruns of that so I can watch it. Because I was never really, for me personally, when I heard about acapella stuff, I'm like, oh Lord, all I could think of, this is acapella stuff. But now that I have a son, and this is my younger years, but now that I have a son who's into acapella, and I hear the different harmonies and stuff. Now that I'm older, it's like, okay, they can do way more than I thought. Acapella, because I'm a old school. You know, if it wasn't gospel, I'm definitely old school R&B. You know, so
Little Earth, Wind, and Fire.
you know what I'm saying? The elements. So you know,
Yes, sir.
I'm just I'm old school in heart, but you know, I really want to say that I'm excited because you took that love for acapella, that love for singing, and you then did something that was very interesting. Now, when did you get this idea? How did this thought come about when you said, you know what, I'm going to start my own camp?
Yeah, so
I'm going to start an acapella camp. When did you get this? How did this thought come about for the camp?
You know, I don't know where the idea came. I remember I used to work at a community music school in Cleveland, and you know, I was one of the recruiters, you know, for the different programs, and so they wanted to build up the teen program, the teen jazz program. And you know, I asked, what kind of ideas do you have? And I was like, how about let's do an acapella program, acapella camp. And so I had my very first camp that year in 2013, and that was just before I left for grad school. And so I wasn't working at that same school anymore, but I knew that this was something that I felt God gave to me. And so I ended up being able to be co-sponsored by the Howard University Alumni Club of Cleveland, and we ended up venturing out and branching out and being completely independent.
Nice. From
From that school. We did that a couple years, and then in 2016 we were on the campus of Cuyahoga Community College for 3 years.
Nice.
And so that was definitely a blessing for us to be on that campus, letting the students get to experience that. It was a day camp at the time, and by 2019 we had left that campus and went to Baldwin-Wallace, where they offered the opportunity for overnight housing, which is something I had been thinking about for a while. It just took a while to get there, and then finally 2019 was a cool year. It was a cool year as far as the camp went. That year my mom was actually sick, so it was tough for me in that regard. And 2020, the pandemic came.
Right.
And I am an overcomer, and I can take on things where I don't need to. But I said, we're gonna still have camp virtually.
Nice.
You know, so we had in 2020,
Right.
and that's how I met you all.
Right.
Did in 2020, I had students as far as California and Georgia, and then 21 came, and things were still kind of shaky with COVID, and so I said we're gonna do online again. But this time I had an adult program, and so I had a student as far as Germany that year, and so that was incredible to just again get more people from all over the world, and then came back in person in 22, and I have wanted to, again, when I first started the program, I wanted to give back to the community. I remember growing up being in summer orchestra camps, jazz camps. I remember doing those things and how they really shaped my musicianship, being around a bunch of different people from different communities.
Yeah.
I thought that was something that really helped me to see the music world larger than what I was presented in high school. And I went to a good high school. I had great experiences, whether it was a school group or friends who I performed with afterwards. But I really wanted to bring that back to Cleveland, and it just happened to be a cappella.
Nice. So do you think you ever would want to open your own school?
I've thought about it many times. Many times, and I think it may happen someday. I think there are some personal, professional endeavors I want to do first. Like, now that I'm done with school, I'm starting to record more and starting to write more, and hopefully, starting to perform more. I have a couple dates coming up, but
Nice.
I think I'm more focused on that at the moment, but maybe later I'll focus a little more on the brick and mortar school thing.
Yeah, that's nice. So my next question is, with the acapella camp, where do you see it in the next couple of years? in the near future?
So
What do you think you see it doing in the near future?
One of the things I've been interested in a few years now, and I think I'm getting closer to it, is satellite programming. You know, not only being housed in Cleveland, but having a program in different cities where I could take my team and we go for a week to that different city, and each city is operated by different, you know, management and things of that nature. But that's one thing I'm thinking about, and maybe that's going to happen. Who knows?
Nice. So you're thinking about like you said, branching out and teaching in other neighborhoods and other communities.
yeah,
Nice.
absolutely.
That's beautiful. That's nice. So people want to know, what does Dr. Bowens do in his spare time?
What's spare time? Let's see. What do I do now? I feel like it's always changing. I used to cook a whole lot. I don't cook as much as I used to. I am starting to now because my trainer and I just resumed, and he expects me to stay at a certain calorie count. But cooking is definitely a hobby. I love to play tennis. It's been a while since I've been out there, but I do love the sport. I love game nights. Game nights are really fun to me, playing spades, Uno, whatever wacky games we got. I used to be a video game kid, but I think I kind of just outgrew it. And then some days I think, oh, maybe I'll go and buy it, you know, but this just hasn't happened. or watching, you know, Netflix and Amazon Prime, and, you know, I like good classic movies. Anything that includes laughing, I like being a part of that.
So since you said that, what would be your go-to classic comedy? What movie would you say was your favorite classic comedy?
I mean, I have personal favorites, but I think when we talked about family earlier, my family, Rush Hour. No, not Rush Hour. Nutty Professor. Nutty Professor 2 especially. I mean, my family watched it so much. We might have had it on bootleg, I don't know. But we watched it so much. I mean, I think if you put the four of us in the room, we could probably quote the entire movie.
Oh man, that's a quotable movie. That's one of my favorites. There, I'm probably gonna take you back. In my comedy is my favorite comedy movie. Probably still to this day is my favorite comedy movie. Would probably be Harlem Nights.
I knew you were gonna say that. I knew it.
It's still my favorite comedy movie.
Yep, I knew it.
It's one of the funniest things with all of those different comedians from that time era. Was one of my favorite things to watch. So, yeah.
And I'm also from the era of like the fighting movies, like Three Ninjas and Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
You know, Power Rangers, like that. That was my childhood. So I still can watch those with no problem.
Yeah, I feel you. So, let's talk about your journey. You just received your doctorate recently. What was that journey like to get there? And not too many people can call themselves doctors, so congratulations to you. First of all, because that is an honor to be able to reach that level of education. So again, congratulations. So tell me, what was that journey for you like?
I started to think about this doctoral thing maybe in 2019. I applied for a program at a university that only had music education as far as I remember, as the focus. Okay. And I applied. They actually accidentally sent me an exception letter.
Okay.
Acceptance letter. Okay. They sent me an acceptance letter. And when I inquired about it, because we had previous conversations that I wasn't qualified, they told me, oh, that was a clerical error. We actually accepted you into our master's program in education. Okay. So that was disheartening. I actually started that program, and then I said, I don't want a second master's. But by 2020, I applied for a couple programs in Florida and at the Eastman School of Music. Eastman seemed like the better situation for me overall. And I didn't know it was going to happen. I didn't plan on being a doctor. That's just not something I ever wanted to do because it meant more school. And like most of us, more school sounds like not fun.
More school.
But it happened. My first year I was here in Rochester, and at the end of that year, or toward the end of that year, I applied for a couple positions. I thought financially I just wanted something more while still being in school. And so I had got 2 offers to move forward. One was with Howard University and the other was with the Eastman School of Music, because they were starting a vocal jazz program.
Nice.
And so Howard's offer was a little bit more, it made more sense, a little more beneficial, just the package that they had offered. And so I ended up accepting that. Eastman had offered me an interview, but not a position yet. So it's like, well, I got this position offer, might as well take it. The hardest part was juggling that full-time position with being a full-time student. I think I initially started off part-time student during that transition. Part-time online, taking classes in person in DC. Then I started to pick up more classes as time went on, because I said, okay, I got the hang of it. And my last semester, I ended up having to move from DC back to Rochester to finish my coursework for that spring and summer because of some accreditation requirements. So I had to teach online, teach Howard students online primarily. I would go to DC maybe once or twice a month, which was quite exhausting, both emotionally and financially. Yeah. And that was really tough. I finished all my coursework in 3 years with a couple summer semesters. And then I had to prepare for my comprehensive exams, which was the most strenuous test I've ever taken in my life. And I ended up postponing it off maybe one go around. And then I took it last January, and I ended up passing it by the grace of God, because there is no other way I got through that thing.
But you got through.
I did. I
got through. And we are grateful to God for his help for you to get through that. So now that we can call you Doc.
Ugh. And that's still so weird. My friends and my church friends, they love to, hey, Doc.
Yeah.
I'm just Reggie, y'all. Just Reggie.
Yeah. Well, listen, tell us a little bit more about the ACAPELLA camp. A no session is coming up this year, right?
Yes.
And it's going to begin when?
So ACAPELLA camp runs July 6th through the 11th this summer.
This summer in Cleveland. So that means if you haven't signed up, if you still want to try to figure out if you want to be there, you need to figure that out, guys.
Oh, yes.
So tell people a little bit about what's coming up for you in the near future. You said that you have some dates and things that you're going to be doing. Share with us a little bit about what you got coming up, Reg.
Yeah, so next week I have a performance at Keystone in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm doing a Stevie Wonder project with some friends who I went to undergrad with. Nice. After that, then there's camp. There's my high school 20 reunion. And then there is, I have a gig. Oh, this one I can't talk about yet. But I have a festival gig coming up. I won't say what festival. And then there's another festival, the Lake Anna Festival in Virginia in September, where I'll be performing in a trio, where we're doing a tribute to Lambert Hendrickson Ross, who was the first big vocal big band in American music history and jazz history.
Nice.
And so those, I think, are probably the most immediate performances that I have coming up.
Nice. Awesome. Well, listen, man, thank you again for allowing us to come and be with you on today and to share a little bit about you and about what is going on in your near future, and getting a chance to really dive in to talk a little bit about, what brought you to the place where we can now call you Dr. Reginald Bowens. Thank you so much. And listen, like I tell people all the time, stay fresh. And we out, y'all.
Ba 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 ba.